Before my recent China trip, I asked what you would be interested to see, and many said Chinese streets. So here we go. First of all, China is world champion in building new infrastructure. So you have new streets, new bridges and new tunnels built very quickly, and some areas look very different just a year later. China is currently expanding their highway network to connect remote areas better to the rest of the country. And even if there is a mountain in the way and the tunnel would be too expensive or too high maintenance, it's no problem and it's simply blown away to make space. Environmental concerns are less of a problem compared to the Western world, and important is to develop the country further. 18 of the 20 highest bridges in the world are in China, and the highest one was just finished in 2025. Chinese streets are huge and have a tarmac surface. I was traveling in Shanghai and Beijing, and crossings are so big that it takes quite a while to cross a street. The traffic lights show you the remaining time and you think you are fine, but in the end you often have to run to still make it across. That is also because in Chinese cities there's often a separate street on each side for slower traffic like scooters and bikes and parking cars. So the main traffic is not affected, but the crossing is much wider. Since there is technically no Google in China, people use other apps, and here even the traffic lights and remaining times are displayed on the map. Sometimes you have low-reaching traffic lights for pedestrians, so you can still see the traffic light while looking on your phone. Since many streets are new, the surface quality is usually very high, although we also took relatively new highways between cities which were quite wavy and bumpy, so you didn't want to drive faster than 120 km per hour. In the city, speed limits are usually 50 and 60 km per hour on bigger streets, but taxis usually drive 80 and more. In 2015, when I came to China for the first time, driving standards were pretty bad. People were doing crazy things in traffic, and we saw bad accidents every now and then where we couldn't understand how this could happen. People didn't grow up with cars and suddenly they had lots of cars, so this natural traffic knowledge had to build up first. Now, 10 years later, it's very different, and it feels like people are as experienced with cars as in Western countries, and the young generation already grew up with cars. Additionally, self-driving technology works really well, even in complex traffic with bikes and scooters. And Chinese self-driving cars basically drive like Chinese taxi drivers. So cars are behaving much better, but the real threat are scooters, for which no rules seem to apply. There's a huge competition between delivery companies and every second counts, so electric scooters are driving everywhere and in every direction. Interesting to see is that most of the cars in traffic are electric, but you rarely see them charging. Most of the charging stations are in the parking garage underground, but even there, cars are rarely plugged in. So while they tell us in Europe that the energy is not enough if everyone is driving electrically, how does that work in China? When I asked Chinese people about this, they explained to me that their electric cars have a range of well over 500 kilometers in city traffic, and they can charge their new cars with up to 500 kilowatt. So if they just plug the car in for 10 minutes, they have enough energy for the next week. So this is almost like refueling a combustion engine car. Electric taxis often have more than 400 kilometers range and more than 200,000 kilometers on the clock, while still looking and feeling pretty sharp. Often it's impressive to see what's in the underground garages, and occasionally you can find some tuned cars. In general, you can say that infrastructure in China is on a very high level. They are experts in building complex infrastructure quickly and can now also offer their skills abroad. I hope you liked this little insight and see you at the next video.